Come together, people, over me. This is going to be a very serious presentation, and I would like to ask all the very stable geniuses to leave right now. Welcome to you, wanting to learn about the hard part of protecting capital. They say who can't do it teaches it, but I am going to learn from this, and there could not be any other goal. Hedging is a complex subject, and automated hedging can currently only be done in MetaTrader. The reason why you should stick around, if you are only interested in trading, that you can learn the ultimate trade here. I have been trying to prepare for the worst case scenario for at least 3 years now. People are afraid of being in the market too long, and the worries could be eliminated with automatization. If you care to pay attention on how the market turns, you may end up concluding that high probability isn't enough and find things that must happen. First of all, there is no such thing as hedging apples with oranges. Going long USD CAD to hedge Euro USD long position not only does not eliminate your risk, but multiplies it. I do not advocate trading more than one currency pair on one account at the same time. Your number one objective should be not getting into a situation where your weapons must be surrendered. This situation is the margin call, and different brokers use different margin percentages, so you need to look up yours. As a hedger, you should start exploring and understanding trading in reverse. The first image on the screen shows you a 4-hour chart where the RSI2 goes to overdrive for more than 3 sample length down here, and that is a condition that should be alleviated by making a higher high in this case in order to flip out the excess. After the previous slides, 12 pip cut above, here's another one that is 11 pips, again a 4-hour chart, and you see 1 through 3 readings that exceed 98 on the RSI 2, sorry. Here's another 4-hour chart, and this is an undercut after a prolonged period of RSI 2 readings, and this went as low as 37 pips. This is important to remember. This next one, I need to move things about. This next one is a 30-minute snapshot, and here you can see the same condition appearing, RSI 2 prolonged underneath 2, and then you take the lowest reading, and then you're expecting an undercut that is going to be in the neighborhood of 12 pips. In this case it was 14 pips. So I promise you the trade that is not just probable but must happen, and this trade is the Forest to E16 trade. The E16, or the House of Love, which was an E17 song back in the 90s. So E16 is 1 hour moving average, but this is a half an hour chart, so I'm using its brother East 32. I'm still calling it E16. The color of it is blue because at times I'm calling it the waterline, and that's the only moving average on my charts you will ever find as one single line. The forest is pushed away. These two rows are trees, tree trunks. Look at them from above, and they are being pushed out by the very condition I showed you. Well, as a matter of fact, when the very condition subsides, then you're gonna have this displacement, and one row is 8 pips away and another one is 12, and this is where you're supposed to be buying, covering. If you're shorting, then covering. If you just want to go long, then this is a great entry for you. And if you are hedging, then this is when you are coming out of your hedge. So you got long positions, you were forced into hedge because of, say, significant drop in equity, and you waiting on this to happen, where you bump into the forest. You close out one half of your hedge here, another half of your hedge here. You might consider going long and taking a trade up to E16, which will be the forest to E16 trade. And when you are closing your hedge, you're supposed to roll out pending additional hedge conditions. I mean hedge orders. So if you want to get involved with hedging, you need to start making friends with 4-hour charts. My indicator, the God Awesome indicator, currently 1.5 version, would be able to plot the following divergence lines for you. The red one here as a continuation divergence, this blue one, brown one, another continuation divergence, and there's a long red coming in here, which would be a continuation divergence but to the downside. So that's one thing that is helpful. Another thing that is helpful and is freely available on my blog is this cyan shading behind these 3 candles, which would show professional volumes, indicate professional activity. Once you have a copy of the God Awesome indicator, you would also have these plots, which would be something I call the end line, and the end line comes with these 2 boxes, and whichever gets touched first is an entry. And in this case you see resistance 1 listed at 1447 and another one at 1459, and at least one of them was actually hit, and that was a valid trade as well. I'll show you a few more examples of these forest to E16 trades. Here you can see where the forest meets the candles and you got your E16 hit. So this again, if you had a hedge, a long hedge against shorts, then this is where you're supposed to be covering at least half of it. Another forest to E16 trade from the near past. You see the first hit, half hedge cover, second hit, another half hedge cover, and alternatively going long into the E16, but of course this one traveled a whole lot further. Now this next image I borrowed from Jim Dalton. He had a presentation on Shadow Trader webinar, and basically this is an image of how momentum trading works. If you start looking at market profiles, then you would start to see and understand and appreciate the single digit prints where the laggards are trading with the innovators, and that is where the market turns. So this is where I should start talking about the market profile. I added this feature, the numbers on the right, to the 88 Luftballons routine, and you can change the sample size. So on the right hand side I have the setting at 48, I believe, and on the left hand side I have the setting at 192, which is 4 days length. Now, as it turns out, my current broker is undergoing rebranding, and that makes it difficult for me to start displaying the things I wanted to show. Therefore, I'm gonna cut this video short and call it the first part, and when everything is normalized I will see you back for the continuation. The forest with the snow barrier is included now in the 88 Luftballons, and it is one subject that I'm talking about in the book that is going to come out in March, and I'm going to say more about it in the next coming video. And the reason I'm holding the book back for, of course I could be ready within a week if I wanted to, but I'm giving enough time for myself for settling on subjects and mulling things over properly. And of course I would like to include some additional statements that I would have by then. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you in the second part.